Hey fight fans, my name is Pete and welcome to Knockout Knowledge. In today's video, we're taking a closer look at the sport of boxing and asking a big question. Could it ever be as structured and organized as the UFC, or is that just wishful thinking? But before we jump in, I do want to make a quick clarification. The UFC isn't a sport itself. It's a promotional company that showcases mixed martial arts, or often abbreviated as MMA. Now that we got that out the way, let's break down some key differences and major factors that I think truly set apart boxing from the UFC. Okay, so the first thing I want to jump into is roster. Since the explosive launch in 1993, UFC has grown to a dominant force in combat sports, now boasting a roster of roughly 700 fighters. And with Dana White's Contender Series constantly bringing in fresh talent, the organization ensures that top-tier athletes are signed, matched up, keeping the competition fierce. Meanwhile, other promotions are out there like PFL, Cage Warriors, and Risen, and they also feature high-level fighters. But the UFC constantly secures the sport's biggest names, so much so that athletes do accept lower pays just for a chance to compete under the UFC's banner. Boxing, on the other hand, operates on a much broader scale with around 20,000 active professional boxers globally. That's according to BoxRec data tracking those who have fought within the past year. But because of this, the sport offers far more potential matchups. However, the UFC's smaller, more focused roster works in its favor. It creates more high-stakes showdowns with little room for fighters to avoid elite competition. Unified rankings further streamline matchmaking, making big fights easier to arrange than in boxing's fragmented system, bringing us to our next key point. Next thing I want to bring up is rankings and titles. The UFC's features a simple, streamlined ranking system thanks to its smaller roster and single title per division. Fighters are ranked by panel and must climb the ranks through competition in order to earn a title shot. Pretty simple, pretty easy, makes sense. But boxing's ranking structure is much more complicated. While BoxRec does offer a widely accepted but unofficial ranking system, the most prestigious rankings do come from the Ring magazine, which also awarded its own championship belt to the top fighters in each division. Unlike the UFC, boxing is governed by 4 major sanctioning bodies: WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO, each with their own championships and their own ranking system. This division does often make it harder for fighters to get recognition, and it could also delay or prevent unification bouts between champions from different organizations. But still, when a boxer does manage to win all 4 major belts, they become an undisputed champion, and it's the sport's highest honor, by the way. Plus, the ring title does usually end up with the undisputed champion as well. But if the ring title does end up becoming vacant, like if the champion were to retire, it is only up for grabs when the magazine's top 2 fighters face off, ensuring that the title goes to a legitimate top-tier fighter, which is why the ring title is probably my favorite title. And in my opinion, if you do hold the ring title, it means that you are the best in the division. Once again, that is my opinion. In recent times, I feel like the ring title has gone to lineal champions, which means that they're the person who beat the person, the man who beat the man. You know, it has a long line of history, and it's my favorite title. Another thing that I want to get into is promotions and networks. Another major hurdle in boxing is promotional politics. Unlike the UFC, which operates under a single unified organization, boxing is divided among several powerful promoters. For example, you have Eddie Hearn's Matchroom, Frank Warren's Queensberry, Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy, Al Heyman's PBC, and Bob Arum's Top Rank. And there are much more promotions out there, and they're not always aligned with the same broadcasting platform. Recently, Queensberry joined Matchroom and Golden Boy on DAZN. Top Rank's partnered with ESPN and PBC with Amazon Prime. Top Rank's contract does end this year, however, and I believe their last ESPN show is going to be July 26th. So, you know, that contract's ending, and nobody really knows where they're going. There's a bunch of rumors out there. So we'll see where Bob Arum decides to take Top Rank to. But because of these separate affiliations, when fighters from different promotions want to face off, it's not just a matter of who's better. It becomes a complicated process of negotiating between competing business interests and broadcasting rights. This does often lead to drawn out talks, delays, or even missed chance of high profile fights from ever happening. But don't worry, boxing fans, there is hope. In recent years, there's been an encouraging surge in unifications and undisputed title fights. For example, we just had Bivol versus Beterbiev fight twice for the undisputed title. And so now, I mean, in my opinion, it's becoming more obvious that fighters are hungrier than ever to become undisputed champions. But for boxing to resemble the UFC structure, a massive promotion would need to step in, sign every major star. But because of Ali Act, it cannot create its own exclusive belt with its own rankings. Even if they could do it, the downside would be it block fighters from outside the organization from ever competing, and so it limits the pool of potential matchups. Alright, so how do we actually get the best fighters to face off against each other? One answer is money. With the right financial incentive, even the biggest names are willing to step into the ring against each other. And we've seen that happen more frequently in recent years. I mean, we had Fury versus Usyk, Bivol versus Beterbiev. Now we're getting Canelo versus Crawford. I mean, these fights probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the money, you know. And it's amazing to see. It is really amazing to see, because these are some fights that people never really thought could ever happen, including me. Another possible fix would be to organize an Undisputed tournament where all 4 sanctioning bodies come together and unify their efforts. This would involve aligning their rankings and having top contenders consistently face off to earn title shots. While it sounds ideal, getting all these organizations to cooperate is extremely unlikely, making it more of a fantasy solution rather than a realistic one. As good as it sounds, it's just really like unrealistic in my opinion. And there you have it, fight fans, a breakdown of why boxing struggles to match the UFC's structure and consistency, from roster size and rankings to promotional politics and broadcasting rights. The differences are massive. The UFC's centralized system makes matchmaking easier and more consistent, while boxing's fragmented nature, despite its rich history and massive talent pool, by the way, it does create roadblocks that often prevent the biggest fights from ever happening. And sure, money can sometimes break down these walls, and we've seen a rise in unification bouts recently, which is promising, but unless the major sanctioning bodies and promoters somehow come together, the dream of a fully unified boxing structure might just stay that, a dream. But what do you think? Could boxing ever reach that level of organization? Do you think a tournament or unified rankings could work? Or would that take away the essence of what makes boxing, well, boxing? I want you to drop your thoughts, suggestions, and opinions in the comments below. I would love to hear what you think. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more boxing breakdowns. This is Knockout Knowledge. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.